Before you finish a single affirmation, before your mind chooses a goal, before belief even has time to speak, your body has already voted. It has decided what feels safe to move toward, what feels dangerous to touch, and what must remain just beyond reach. Most people think manifestation begins with thought. It doesn't. It begins with the nervous system. Reality does not pause to wait for motivation or intention. It responds instantly to the state your body's resting in. And this is the part almost no one wants to look at, because it quietly removes the mind from its imagined throne. You are not manifesting with thoughts first. You are manifesting with your baseline, with the state your system returns to when nothing is happening, with the internal climate you live inside, unconsciously. When that climate is tense, braced, or subtly alert, life mirrors instability, even if your words sound spiritual, even if your intentions are pure. But when the nervous system is grounded, coherent, and settled, reality reorganizes with startling ease, often without effort, often without force. This isn't symbolism, it's biology. Neuroscience shows that the nervous system is the gatekeeper of perception. It decides what the brain is allowed to notice, what it filters out, and which futures feel accessible instead of threatening. If your system perceives the world as unpredictable, the brain shifts into control mode. Perception narrows. Attention loops back to what is familiar. The past becomes the blueprint, and even when desire changes, outcomes don't. From a quantum perspective, this is perfectly aligned. Reality doesn't collapse through intention alone. It collapses through coherence. And coherence cannot exist in a system that is constantly preparing for impact. This is why so many people feel stuck despite doing everything right. They visualize, they reframe beliefs, they repeat affirmations. But their body is still living in yesterday's survival pattern. The signal becomes contradictory, and the field responds to the contradiction. Reality isn't resisting you. It's stabilizing around you. When the nervous system is dysregulated, urgency becomes normal. Waiting feels wrong. Silence feels uncomfortable. Stillness is mistaken for stagnation. In that state, even positive change can feel unsafe because it carries uncertainty. The body tightens, the mind accelerates, and manifestation slows, not as punishment, but as protection. A powerful nervous system is not aggressive. It is regulated. It can remain open without slipping into vigilance. It can hold desire without turning it into pressure. It can sit with uncertainty without labeling it as danger. This is where manifestation changes its nature. When regulation is present, the brain stops scanning for threat. Attention widens. Time loosens its grip. Choices become intuitive instead of compulsive. And intuitive action aligns with probability instead of fighting it. This state is often misunderstood. From the outside, it looks like confidence. From the inside, it feels like neutrality, not numbness, not indifference, neutrality. And neutrality is where the field responds fastest, because nothing is distorting the signal. This is why breakthroughs often arrive when you are calm, not excited, grounded, not euphoric, settled, not striving. The nervous system stops interfering. The observer becomes stable. Probability collapses cleanly. This also explains why subconscious change doesn't happen through repetition of language. The subconscious doesn't speak words. It speaks experience. It updates through repeated moments of safety, through the body learning that it doesn't need to defend against the future. When safety becomes embodied, the subconscious reorganizes on its own. The baseline shifts, and reality follows. This is the foundation of a nervous system so coherent that life appears to respond effortlessly. Not because you dominate the field, but because you stop sending mixed signals into it. Once coherence is established, manifestation is no longer something you chase. It becomes something that gathers around you. A regulated nervous system isn't built through willpower. It's built through repetition of safety. This is where most manifestation approaches collapse. They try to override the body instead of retraining it. The subconscious does not respond to logic. It responds to patterns. And the strongest pattern it learns is how you respond when things are uncertain. If uncertainty once meant danger, expansion will always trigger contraction, no matter how clear your intention is. When something new approaches, the breath shortens. Attention narrows. The body pulls you back to what feels familiar, even if familiar means limitation. This isn't self-sabotage, it's protection. The subconscious is a predictive system. Its role is survival, not success. It scans the past to anticipate risk and adjust behavior to keep you alive. When the past carried instability or loss of control, alertness becomes the baseline. And from a quantum perspective, that baseline is everything. The field doesn't respond to your future vision. It responds to your present state. If your present state is braced, the future collapses into versions that feel manageable, not expansive. Reality will never challenge your nervous system faster than it can tolerate. This is why so many people feel almost there for years. The mind is ready, the body is not, and the body always decides. When the nervous system becomes regulated, the signal changes fundamentally. It communicates readiness without urgency, openness without tension, safety without emotion. That signal is coherence, the absence of wanting one thing while preparing for another. This is why repetition matters more than intensity. One calm response to uncertainty rewrites more than 1,000 affirmations spoken in tension. Each time you remain regulated in the unknown, the nervous system updates its prediction. It learns that novelty isn't dangerous, that expansion doesn't require collapse. Over time, this steadiness becomes automatic. From the outside, it looks like confidence. From the inside, it feels like ease. You stop rushing, you stop checking, you stop rehearsing worst-case outcomes. Not because you're trying to be spiritual, but because your system no longer needs to be vigilant. And this is when manifestation accelerates. The subconscious stops pulling you back. The nervous system releases the brakes, and reality no longer needs delay as a buffer. When the nervous system is regulated, opportunities arrive without friction. Decisions feel obvious instead of heavy. Timing feels precise rather than pressured. This is why real reprogramming never happens only in moments of crisis. It happens quietly in the ordinary spaces, in how you respond to silence, in how you sit with not knowing, in whether your body tightens or softens when nothing resolves immediately. Every one of those moments is training your nervous system at a deeper level than intention ever could. This is what embodiment actually means. Not embodying an identity, not performing confidence or certainty, but embodying safety inside uncertainty. When the body feels safe, the subconscious loosens its grip on the past. And when the subconscious releases the past, the field stops replaying it. Most people try to reprogram the subconscious by forcing new beliefs. This creates internal conflict. The body resists, the signal fractures, and reality mirrors that fragmentation. A regulated nervous system does not argue with itself. It does not convince. It does not rehearse certainty. It simply stays available. And availability is magnetic. The more regulated the system becomes, the less reality needs to test it. Tests exist to build tolerance. Once tolerance is present, tests dissolve. Expansion becomes normal instead of dramatic. This is why some people seem to move through life with ease. Not because life is easier for them, but because their nervous system does not interpret change as danger. Their baseline allows reality to move quickly without triggering collapse. This is the real power of the subconscious. Not control, not dominance, but stability under expansion. When stability is embodied, manifestation no longer depends on effort. Reality responds because it finally can. A nervous system becomes powerful not when it can endure pressure, but when it no longer needs pressure to stay engaged with life. This is where resilience is misunderstood. Many believe strength is built through pushing, tolerating, or surviving discomfort, but that only reinforces survival patterns. True power emerges when the system learns it can remain open without bracing. Early experiences teach the nervous system how much expansion is safe. If growth was once followed by loss, criticism, or instability, the body associates expansion with danger. So when something good approaches, an opportunity, a breakthrough, a shift, the system tightens automatically. Thoughts accelerate, doubt appears, timing becomes distorted. Not because the mind isn't ready, but because the body is preparing for impact. This is the invisible ceiling most people never identify. They assume they are blocked by belief, mindset, or discipline, when they are actually blocked by tolerance. The nervous system has not yet learned how to hold the next level of reality, without collapsing back into familiar tension. Neuroscience refers to this as capacity regulation. Every system has a window of tolerance for novelty, pleasure, success, and uncertainty. When experience exceeds that window, contraction occurs, and contraction always signals the field to slow down, redirect, or fragment probability into something more manageable. The field is not punishing you, it is respecting your capacity. This is why manifestations often arrive partially, or arrive and disappear, or arrive but feel overwhelming instead of satisfying. The nervous system has not yet been trained to remain regulated at that frequency, so reality adapts to prevent overload. Training a powerful nervous system means expanding that window deliberately, not through force, through repetition of safety at higher levels. Each time you stay regulated while something new unfolds, the system updates its model. It learns that expansion does not equal threat. Over time, what once felt intense becomes ordinary. This is where manifestation changes pace. From a quantum perspective, probability collapses toward what can be sustained. Not what is desired briefly, but what can be lived without triggering defense. When the nervous system can hold more without tension, the field has permission to deliver more without delay. This is why slow, embodied shifts outperform dramatic techniques. Each regulated response builds internal capacity. Each moment of staying present instead of reacting widens the window. As the window expands, reality reorganizes naturally. The subconscious is not convinced by language. It is convinced by experience, specifically by experiences where nothing bad happens when something new occurs. This is why calm exposure to uncertainty is one of the most powerful practices, not chasing outcomes, not visualizing obsessively, but remaining regulated when answers are not immediate, allowing space without filling it with urgency. Spiritually, this is often called trust, but trust is not a belief. It is a physiological state. A body that trusts does not brace. It does not rush. It does not demand proof. It remains available, and availability attracts movement. When the nervous system is available, the subconscious stops scanning for threat. When the subconscious relaxes, perception widens. When perception widens, probability expands. When probability expands, response feels instant because nothing inside is resisting the shift. This is why people who have done deep nervous system work experience synchronicities without effort. Their system is not interfering. Their baseline is open. Reality flows because it no longer needs to slow itself down to match tension. A powerful nervous system does not dominate reality. It cooperates with it. It stays flexible under expansion. It adapts without collapse. It allows the future to arrive without rehearsing disaster. This level of regulation cannot be rushed, but once it begins, it compounds quickly. Small moments of coherence stack. The body learns. The subconscious updates. The field responds. Eventually, the old ceiling dissolves. What once felt overwhelming becomes natural. What once felt distant feels present. Manifestation stops being surprising. It becomes sustainable. That is real power. Not forcing reality to respond, but becoming stable enough that it no longer needs to hesitate. When the nervous system expands its capacity, a new phase appears. Not instability, but maintenance. This is where many people unintentionally collapse progress. Not because they regress, but because they do not yet know how to live without tension. When coherence becomes familiar, the mind searches for stimulation again. It looks for urgency, it looks for problems, it looks for reasons to push. This is not failure, it is conditioning. An identity shaped by survival feels disoriented when survival is no longer required. Neurologically, this is expected. The brain learned to associate activation with productivity and calm with risk. So when regulation deepens, the mind mislabels it as complacency and tries to reintroduce effort to regain control. That effort fractures coherence immediately. This is why sustained manifestation requires a different discipline. Not discipline of action, but discipline of non-interference. The ability to notice the impulse to tighten and choose not to follow it. Coherence is only fragile when it is not embodied. Once embodied, it becomes resilient. But embodiment requires repetition. Living daily life from this state, not just touching it in meditation or insight. This is where many fall back into old loops. They experience alignment, feel flow, then abandon it in ordinary moments. They tighten in traffic, brace in conversation, rush decisions that do not require urgency. Each micro-movement trains contraction again. Reality responds accordingly. A powerful nervous system remains regulated not only during expansion, but during boredom, silence, and moments where nothing seems to be happening. Those moments are not empty. They are training grounds. Neuroscience shows the subconscious updates fastest in low stimulation states. When the brain is not overloaded, rewiring is more efficient. Calm repetition creates lasting change. Dramatic effort does not. This is why manifestation accelerates when life becomes quieter. The system has space to integrate. Frequency stabilizes. Reality reorganizes without resistance. This stage is often mistaken for stagnation. People believe they have lost momentum. In truth, intensity is no longer required. The shift has moved from emotional to structural. Structural change is subtle, but it is permanent. This is where faith becomes practical. Not faith in outcomes, but faith in the internal state. Trusting that calm does not equal delay. Trusting that you do not need pressure to remain aligned. Trusting that silence is not emptiness, but preparation. When the nervous system trusts itself, it stops scanning for reassurance. And when reassurance is no longer required, reality no longer delays its response. Time begins to change its texture. It no longer feels like something you are racing against. It becomes something you are moving with. Decisions lose their drama. Opportunities stop feeling fragile. The fear that one wrong move could undo everything begins to dissolve. This is a clear marker of real power. The nervous system is no longer brittle. It can bend without breaking. It can stay open in uncertainty without rushing to close the gap. It can receive without flinching. From a quantum perspective, this is the optimal observer state. Present, stable, non-reactive, not detached but no longer entangled with fear-based prediction. In this state, probability does not need to protect itself. It collapses efficiently. This is why outcomes at this stage often feel perfectly timed. Not because they were engineered, but because nothing inside was interfering. The internal state allowed reality to move at its natural pace, and that pace often feels instant. Sustaining this does not require vigilance. It requires awareness. Awareness of subtle tightening. Awareness of old habits attempting to return. Awareness of the urge to control, and choosing regulation instead. Each time softness replaces bracing, the nervous system reinforces safety. Each time silence is allowed without being filled, the subconscious updates. Each time response replaces reaction, coherence strengthens. Over time, this stops being something you do. It becomes who you are. And when coherence becomes identity, reality no longer negotiates. It aligns. At this level, the nervous system no longer reacts automatically to expansion. But this does not mean the process is complete. This is where mastery actually begins, not in creating alignment, but in protecting it. The greatest threat to a regulated nervous system is not stress. It is unconscious regression. Regression does not arrive dramatically. It appears quietly, through rushing when there is no urgency, through over-explaining when silence would suffice, through seeking confirmation when clarity is already present. Each of these movements seems insignificant. Together, they gradually pull the system back toward an old baseline. Neurologically, this is expected. The brain favors efficiency. It prefers familiar pathways until new ones are reinforced deeply enough to run on their own. Even after regulation stabilizes, the nervous system will occasionally test old responses to see if they are still needed. This is not failure. It is integration. The difference now is awareness. A powerful nervous system does not eliminate contraction forever. It notices contraction sooner, and instead of identifying with it, it regulates it. That regulation is what prevents frequency collapse. From a quantum standpoint, frequency rarely disappears instantly. It degrades gradually through interference. Each unnecessary tension introduces noise. Each moment of self-monitoring fragments coherence. Left unchecked, these small disruptions accumulate, and reality responds with subtle delay. This is why embodiment matters more than insight. Insight can elevate frequency temporarily. Embodiment stabilizes it. Embodiment is regulation that no longer requires instruction. The body returns to coherence automatically. Calm becomes a default, not a practice. This is the difference between accessing power and sustaining it. Spiritually, this phase is often misunderstood. Many fear that if they stop pushing, movement will stop. In truth, movement becomes more precise, less chaotic, more efficient. Action now emerges from clarity, not pressure. Neuroscience confirms this shift. When the nervous system is regulated, the prefrontal cortex functions optimally. Decision-making sharpens, creativity increases, reaction time improves. Not because effort intensifies, but because energy is no longer diverted toward threat management. This is when manifestation feels synchronized rather than forced. You stop pushing timing. You stop micromanaging outcomes. You respond instead of anticipating. Response aligns with what is actually happening. Anticipation aligns with what you fear might happen. At this stage, the subconscious completes its update. Expansion is no longer linked to danger. Gain is no longer followed by bracing for loss. Through lived experience, the system learns that growth can be stable, that success does not require collapse, that safety and momentum can coexist. Once this learning integrates, the nervous system stops pulling you back. From a quantum perspective, this is when reality stops testing coherence. Tests exist to build tolerance. When tolerance is embodied, tests dissolve. Reality no longer needs to slow down, fragment outcomes, or introduce delay to protect the observer. Life becomes simpler at this level. Not easier, but cleaner. Fewer dramatic swings, fewer internal negotiations, fewer arguments within the self. Frequency stabilizes because nothing inside is fighting itself. And when nothing inside is fighting itself, reality has no resistance to move around. This is the paradox of power. True power does not feel intense. It feels quiet, ordinary, almost boring to an identity that once relied on struggle to feel alive. But that boredom is freedom. It means the nervous system no longer needs chaos to remain engaged with life. And this is precisely where many unconsciously begin to sabotage. Many people confuse peace with emptiness, so they manufacture urgency just to feel alive again. And without realizing it, they revive the very patterns they worked so hard to dissolve. A regulated nervous system does the opposite. It allows stillness without needing to explain it. It lets momentum build without pressure. It allows reality to unfold without interference. Each time regulation replaces reaction, coherence deepens. Each time silence is left untouched, the subconscious stabilizes. Each time you trust your baseline instead of questioning it, frequency anchors further into the body. Eventually, this state no longer feels maintained. It feels inhabited. And when regulation becomes identity, reality no longer responds occasionally. It responds consistently. There comes a moment when the nervous system stops needing to prove its strength. What once felt like practice becomes instinct. You no longer pause to regulate. You no longer search for center. You are already there. This is real subconscious reprogramming. Not effort, not repetition, not control, but automatic coherence. When the nervous system is truly powerful, it does not react to reality. It sets the tone. The body no longer waits for external conditions to feel safe. Safety becomes internal. And when safety is internal, the subconscious stops scanning the future for threat. Neurologically, this is where prediction dissolves. The brain no longer needs to constantly reference the past to prepare for what's next. Attention shifts from defense to perception. You notice more. You sense more. You respond instead of anticipating. This is why life begins to feel like it is moving with you, not against you. From a quantum perspective, this is when the observer becomes clean. There is no emotional distortion between you and probability. No hidden fear negotiating outcomes. No internal resistance slowing collapse. The signal you emit is steady, uninterrupted, coherent. At this level, manifestation no longer feels initiated. It feels revealed. Conversations align naturally. Timing compresses without effort. Decisions resolve without mental friction. What once required force now arrives through alignment. And this is the part few people talk about. When this state stabilizes, life does not become louder. It becomes quieter, more precise, more intentional. There is less drama, not more. Less urgency, not more excitement. That quiet is the confirmation. It tells you the nervous system has recalibrated. Many expect power to feel intense. In truth, power feels settled. This is why those who reach this stage often stop speaking about manifestation altogether. They no longer track it. They no longer validate it. Reality responding becomes normal, expected, unremarkable. And because it is unremarkable, it continues. The moment alignment needs to be announced, it has already been disturbed. A powerful nervous system does not cling to identity. It does not need to be someone who manifests. It simply lives in coherence. And coherence never announces itself. It operates quietly. This is also where the future stops feeling distant. Not because you can predict it, but because you are no longer separated from it internally. The gap between now and next dissolves. Time softens. Outcomes feel less fragile. You stop fearing that one misstep will undo everything. That fear belonged to the old system. Now, even when disruption appears, regulation returns quickly. Even when uncertainty arises, urgency does not take over. Even when expansion accelerates, the system does not flinch. This is the mark of true power. Not control over reality, but compatibility with it. And it is this compatibility that allows reality to respond cleanly. Not dramatically, not every time, but consistently. This is where manifestation stops being a practice and becomes a byproduct of who you are. If you feel this state beginning to stabilize within you, it is not accidental. It is the result of internal preparation, of layers releasing, of a system learning it no longer needs to protect itself from the future. And if you want to anchor this state, not just understand it, but live from it, structure matters. Not more information, but supports that help the body remember coherence when old patterns attempt to return. That is why this work exists. Not as motivation, not as theory, but as a framework for embodiment, for training the nervous system to return naturally, without force, without pressure. If this message resonates, you will know when to take the next step. There is no urgency. Coherence never responds to urgency. You do not need to make reality obey. You need to remain stable enough that it no longer needs to hesitate. And when that stability becomes who you are, reality has no resistance left.